everyone, this is City Scrapper. I'm so glad you could join me today for day 9 of Christy's Beautiful Life, 30 Days of Sketches, and Scraptember 2021. Today's sketch is in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but I believe it says that it's by Liz Chittister, and she created it for My Creative Scrapbook, my favorite monthly scrapbook kit club. The Scraptember prompt for today is stickers. And you would think that for a scrapbook layout that stickers would be no problem, but I did struggle a little bit with finding some stickers to go on my layout. But in the end, I'm happy to say I was able to satisfy the Scraptember prompt for today. For today's layout, I'm making a mixed media background, and I'm using a whole bunch of different colors. I'm using some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mists, and I use bright patina, lime luster, aquamarine, turquoise blue, and robin's egg, a whole bunch of different greens and blues in the background. I also use some Lindy's. I use the color Yellow Rose of Texas. So that's my color palette. I'm creating some large areas, one going diagonally down the layout, and then 2 smaller areas in either corner. The nice thing about mixing together these colors that are next to each other on the color wheel is that when combined, they will just create variations of the same colors. So since blue and yellow make green, it doesn't matter if the yellow and the blue mix together or the green and the blue or the green and the yellow. All the colors will go along with the color scheme and it won't create a dark color. Now I'm sprinkling some water over the top of the areas of color that I just applied, and with the paper towel it's lifting up a little bit of the color, and that just creates a cool effect. You could see where the little droplets of water were, and I think that's perfect for this layout. Now I'm using a stencil that I created on the Silhouette Cameo, and I do some experimentation. I take a few different products and I mix them all together. I have some gel medium, I have some Bow Bunny glitter paste, and a little bit of modeling paste too. I had in my mind that I wanted this paste to be a little more glittery. Then when I looked at it, I felt that it was a little bit too transparent, so I took out some acrylic paint and I mixed that in, and that gave me the look that I had in mind. This acrylic paint was a very inexpensive tube. I got it during the pandemic when everything was closed. There was one store that was open and they had a very small craft area, and I was lucky to be able to get a tube of white paint. And it's a little softer than the other acrylic paints I have, but it's perfect for mixing into modeling paste. You can see here that I'm flipping the stencil around a little bit. I wanted to have the fish swimming in both directions. So I made the fish in the upper right-hand corner and some of the fish in that center diagonal facing to the left. And then I'm going back and I'm fixing a couple of spots. I feel there's always a couple of spots that need a little bit of repair. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going back in and being very careful to fix some of the areas that the fish just didn't look quite right when I lifted up the stencil. In some cases, I'm fixing some fish that were already there, and in others, I'm adding a few more where I felt there were a few empty spots. Now I'm adding some splatters to the background. I'm using the same colors that I used to create the large areas of color, and I aim for hitting the large areas of color with the splatters. Of course, splatters splatter all around, but that's what I try to do. I try to get most of the splatters around the edges of the large areas of color. Now I'm adding some watered down white acrylic paint and I'm splattering that all around the background. And again, just kind of aiming for those large areas of color. Now I'm going to make some circles for the layout. I'm using a Graphic 45 collection called Voyage Beneath the Sea. It's such a beautiful collection. I don't believe I have any of the embellishments. I just have the papers. I sometimes have trouble cutting into these beautiful Graphic 45 papers. I'm always afraid that I'm ruining the papers when I'm cutting something out of them, and then I feel bad about the image that's on the other side that I'm not using. But I did manage to successfully use some of these papers on my layout. Look how gorgeous this paper is. And I'm using Creative Memory circle cutters. I just love these circle cutters. They're probably my most used tool other than my trimmer. And they enable you to make circles and then make circles that are slightly larger or slightly smaller than the circle that you cut out. And I like that because I love how mounting a circle or any shape on another slightly larger circle helps to create a lot of contrast. The photos that I'm going to be scrapbooking are photos of both of my daughters kayaking. And I was thinking that the water they were kayaking in was probably fresh water. I'm not 100% sure. We were near the ocean, but my guess was that it was not salt water, and these papers are clearly of saltwater creatures. And while that crossed my mind for a moment, I told myself we were on a beach vacation in Cape Cod, so these papers were just fine. I trimmed back the circle on the top right-hand corner. You will see that as I proceed with making this layout, I move those circles back further and further. I always feel like it's better to make something a little bigger and trim it back rather than having to remake the whole element again. My family has been going to Cape Cod for a long time, and we've been going to this exact place to rent our kayaks for many years. Most years, I would go in a kayak with one of my daughters, and my husband would go in a kayak with the other daughter. But as they've gotten older, and as a matter of fact, this was the first year that they didn't need us to be in the kayak with them. They decided they were going to go together. So it was a big change. It's sometimes hard for me to see them getting so old and independent. I'm glad that they are, but it's just these moments where it hits you that they're old enough to go kayaking safely without having a parent in the boat. But actually, it was great because they decided they were going to go in the other direction from the direction that we normally went. So my husband and I returned our kayaks, and then I was able to take photos of them on their way back. And I always take pictures before we get in the kayak and after we're done, but this was the first time I was able to get a couple of pictures of my daughters in the kayaks. So it turned out that that strip, that blue strip that I had made for behind the photos, it wasn't long enough. So instead of cutting another piece of paper, I just cut the strip in half and then attached it to a scrap of white cardstock. I pop up the photo, those two photos that are attached together as one unit using some fun foam. I attached the photos down to the strip. And just like in the sketch, I left a little bit more of the strip showing on the right than on the left. And I like that little touch. I feel that my head automatically goes to centering everything, but I think that making it a little asymmetrical made it more interesting. Then I wanted to add some of the strips of paper that were in the sketch, so I just trimmed some very thin pieces of paper, and I made sure that they were going to contrast with that busy pattern that was already on the background. And now I'm adding some of these Melissa Francis, I think they're resin stars, to the background. Even though these are stars and they're not starfish, I feel that they go really well with any kind of sea-themed layouts. So I do use them a lot on those kinds of layouts. And they are sticky. I wasn't sure if they qualified as stickers, but at the time that I put them down, I thought maybe I could get away with calling them stickers. I added a very thin strip of the same paper that I used on either circle to that center strip of paper. And then I punched out some photo corners. I just punched out 2 photo corners. Now I'm adding another strip of paper, and this is also in the sketch, a shorter, wider strip right next to the long, thin strip. So I again picked out a color that I knew would show up against the busy paper that's there, and then inking the edges also helps to separate the paper from the pattern paper that's in the circles. I really followed this sketch very closely. I wanted to add a few more embellishments though, and I'm still thinking that I want to add some stickers. But first I decided I was going to look through this box of K & Company chipboard pieces. This collection is called Sea Glass, and see if there were any pieces that I thought would look nice on the layout. I picked out a sun that I'm attaching down right now to the right of the photos. There was an anchor on a piece of circular chipboard, and then this dragonfly I thought would be a good addition as well. Finally, I opened up this pack of K & Company dimensional stickers, and I added a starfish to the page, and I felt good that I finally had a true sticker attached down. While I was looking at all these stickers, I found that there were a number of jewels that were in the sticker pack, and I guess those are stickers too because they are self-adhesive. So I added a couple of those to the layout. And I tried so hard to add that white sand dollar, but it just didn't work. I'm using some orange puffy stickers to write out Discover. These are some Hip Kit Club exclusives that I got quite a while ago. I lined them up a little bit off camera, and then I was thinking that I wanted to add a few really small pearls to the D, just as a little extra touch. But the title still looked a little bare and lonely, so I added 3 small stars, those Melissa Francis stars that I use on the rest of the page, and that completes this layout. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and thank you for subscribing and liking, and thank you very much for those lovely comments. I will respond to every one of them, I promise. Please look in the description box, check out Christy's video, check out everybody else's video who's following along, and also check out the Facebook group. I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.